Alright guys, so for our first ever video, we're going to do a little bit of review. So you should have these notes. We took them right before break. So it's writing, simplifying, and evaluating expressions. It looks like this. So I'm not going to cover this. I think we're pretty good on this. We are going to go down and we're going to look at simplifying expressions. So this is combining like terms. So we're going to get a little bit into this again the rest of this week and the beginning of next week. So notice on these sheets I circled my numbers that do not have variables, so my constants, in one color, including the sign that's in front of it, and then my terms that do have variables that are similar in another color. So if I combine 12 and -4, that's the same thing as 12 minus 4, I get 8, and then I'm just going to add my 7b. Okay? Remember, this is thinking like a car crusher, so we're going to just try to squish it down from this big long expression up here down to a shorter one. We're going to try to simplify it as much as we can. Okay, so for my next one, I have a term here that's 8 times 6, so I'm going to circle that in blue, because when I get the answer for that, that will also be a constant. And then I have -3, that's another term. Remember, terms are separated by either a plus or a minus sign. So I circled my -3 here because that is also a constant. Neither of these have variables. Then I circled my plus mn in a different color. So first I'm going to solve, I'm going to multiply, and I'm going to get 8 times 6 is 48. Then I'm going to take away 3, so I just went ahead and brought down my -3, or my take away 3. And then I'm going to bring down my term with my variables. Okay? So I'm still keeping the same color pattern here. I still have my constants in blue, my variables in green. So then I'm left with 48 minus 3 plus mn, and I can solve 48 minus 3, which gives me 45 plus mn. Now I can't do anything with these terms here, with the variables, because I don't know what the variable is. Okay? And then we came down here and we looked at evaluating if we know what the variables are. So for 2h plus k, we're going to plug in the variables. Now remember, when I'm plugging in for a variable and if there's a coefficient in the front, then that means it's multiplication. So if there's a number right in front of a variable, it means I'm multiplying. This is 2 sets of h. If I just put in 3 here, I would get 23, which is a lot different than 2 times 3. Okay, so I'm going to plug in my 3 for my h here. So I'm going to have 2 times 3, and then I'm going to add my k, which is 5. So I have 2 times 3 plus 5. Then I'm just going to follow the order of operations to solve. So I have to multiply first, and I get 6, and then I add my 5, and my final answer is 11. Now this one is a little more complicated because it does have 3 different variables and they're all right next to each other, but that just means I'm multiplying them all together. So I have 8, h, j, k. So I'm going to do 8 times 3 times 1 times 5. Now remember, when I have parentheses with numbers back to back like that, that means I'm multiplying them all together. So if I had 8315, that would be 8,315, which is a lot different than what my answer to this problem is going to be. And I'm just going to bring down my other term, which is plus 17. And then I'm going to use the order of operations to solve. So I multiply first. So I started to make it a little bit easy. I started by just doing 8 times 3 and bringing everything else down. So I have 24 times 1 times 5. 24 times 1 is going to give me 1. Times another 5 will give me 120. Now notice I just kept bringing my plus 17 down because I'm not quite there yet, but I don't want to forget about it. So 120 plus 17 equals 137. So that would be my final answer. Okay, all of this you should already have completed. Now this is the notes that we're going to talk about today. We're going to continue on with evaluating expressions. So first in the rocket, let's take our notes. So when we're evaluating expressions and we know what the variable is, we are just going to replace and simplify. Okay. Excuse my messy handwriting on that. All right, first step, you are going to plug in your variables. Step number 2, follow your order of operations. And if you want to put PEMDAS down here, you are more than welcome to, so that you remember what order of operations means. Okay, and then step 3, you are just going to solve. Okay. All right, so let's look at this big, long, complicated problem. I am starting with a times b plus b, all in parentheses, divided by 15 plus parentheses 2 times b minus a in parentheses. So it's telling us that a equals 4 and b equals 6. So just to make this fun, I'm going to change out my color pen here. All right, so I am going to multiply a times b. So a is 4, b is 6. Okay, and then I'm also going to add b. Now all of this here is in parentheses, but since I rewrote my multiplication with parentheses, now I need to add brackets. Remember, brackets are also grouping symbols. Then I'm going to bring down my divided by 15, bring down my plus sign, and then I'm going to do 2 times b, which is 6, minus a, which is 4. And then again, this is all in parentheses, so I need to bring down some more grouping symbols. Since I already have parentheses here, I'm going to turn these outside ones into brackets. All right, first step, I'm going to start with my parentheses on the left, or my grouping symbols on the left. Okay, and I'm going to, inside these parentheses, if I were to block out the whole rest of the problem, I have 4 times 6 plus 6. So I'm going to start with my multiplication. So 4 times 6 is 24, and then bring down my plus 6 and my grouping symbols, and then I'm just going to bring down the rest of my problem. Make sure that you're copying this very carefully so that you don't make any mistakes. We'll give you a different answer. Okay. Notice how neat this is. So for example, on when we take tests and stuff like that, if you are writing your work neatly, then I might be able to give you partial credit. If your work is all over the place and it's going to mess you up, you're not going to be able to tell where you made mistakes, and I'm not going to be able to tell if you were even on the right track. So make sure you're doing your work neatly. All right, I'm going to continue with my grouping symbols to the left. So 24 plus 6 gives me 30. Now I don't need parentheses anymore. I'm going to bring down the rest of my problem. Okay, now parentheses still comes next, so I'm going to block out the rest of this problem, and then I'm going to solve these parentheses. So here I have 2 times 6 minus 4. So if I do 2 times 6, it's going to give me 12, and then I'm going to bring down the minus 4, still bring down, now I don't have to use brackets anymore, I can use parentheses. And then I'm going to bring down the rest of my problem in the same order. Okay? Next step, I'm going to solve the rest of my parentheses so I can completely get rid of all parentheses. So 12 minus 4 gives me 8. Bring down the rest of my problem. Okay, now I have division and I have addition left. Now PEMDAS over here tells me that I need to do a division first. Remember, parentheses, exponents, multiplication and division in order from left to right, and then addition and subtraction in the order from left to right. So division comes first. So 30 divided by 15 is going to give me 2. Bring down my plus 8. My final answer should be 10. Now again, when you're showing work for me, I want you to write it neatly and then put a box or a circle or something around your answer so I can tell it from the rest of your problem. All right, if you go down to the bottom of your paper where it says try it, we'll do the first one together and the second one you're going to do on your own. Okay, so I have y squared on the top. Remember that this is a fraction bar, and a fraction bar just means to divide. Okay? So y squared, my y is 2. So this is going to give me 2 squared. Ooh. Like I said, make sure you're copying carefully so you don't make mistakes like I did. Divided by, and then I have x, which is 1, and z, which is going to give me 5. Okay? I'm going to do, I don't have parentheses, so I'm going to do exponents first. 2 squared is 2 times 2. Remember that it's not 2 plus 2. That repeated addition is the same thing as multiplication. We're not doing 2 times 2 just because we have this squared. We're doing it 2 times 2 because we're repeating 2 twice and we're multiplying it together. Okay, so this is going to be 4 on top. And then I need to figure out my denominator. So 1 plus 5 is going to give me 6. And then I can simplify that. If I divide the top and the bottom by 2, that's going to give me 2/3. Okay? Now this last one, I want you guys to try on your own. Remember when you have this y, z next to each other, remember that that's multiplying. So you're going to do 2 times y times z. Okay? The rest of it you should be able to plug in without any problems. Now I do want to tell you guys, most of our videos will not be this long. So this is just our first time around. We're practicing, we're doing it together. And we will have another one this week about simplifying expressions and combining like terms. Okay? All right.